Jeremy from Jeremy.net. So this is a piece that I was working on late last year, and it's available in my store now. The finished version is available as both a t-shirt and an art print. The idea behind it is that it's an illustration based on the famous last word of Captain Ahab in Moby Dick. He says, "From hell's heart, I stab at thee." As he, sends his harpoon into Moby Dick one final time, and Moby Dick ends up dragging him off of the boat and down into the waters, never to be seen or heard from again. And there was something about those words, like the drama of them, but mixed in with just the mental juxtaposition of him being dragged down, but having this tiny little cartoony guy and this cartoony whale. So it's like this big serious scene with kind of a funny little almost Monty Python-esque cartoon around it that, the mental image made me laugh. It was in my sketchbook, and I thought this would make a cool print or a t-shirt. So, I went ahead and put one together. And when I originally started sketching this out, it was not as elaborate as the comp that you see on the left. And I'll basically tell you how I ended up getting to that image you see on the left that I'm looking at as I'm drawing. Originally, when I sketched this out, it was just the character and the whale and a word balloon above. And I wasn't even sure exactly how I was going to frame the whale and, where I was going to put the water and all that. I just thought that the simple image and the text in the balloon itself was enough. But then usually before I start, I make a quick layout in Illustrator. Anytime I'm combining illustration design with artwork, I'll create a layout in Illustrator so I can draw around the text or the design elements, make sure they fit the way I wanted to. And I was just looking at those word balloons, and they were boring. They didn't really sell me because it was just more of a standard comic book word balloon with dialogue in it that was just oversized, hanging above the character. And I started thinking, well, what would make me want to buy this if I didn't create it? That's the question that I ask myself anytime I make something. I can't say that I always achieve that goal, but that's kind of the standard I strive for. Is make it cool enough that I would want this. I would want this to hang on my wall, or I'd want to look at it even if I didn't make it. So then I started doing some research. The next step was looking online, looking at Victorian era illustrations, Victorian era newspapers, P.T. Barnum advertisements, work of that era. And I realized I needed to put just as much time into the typography as I did the actual illustration itself. Because with the type as big as it is, or as big as I kind of saw it in the sketch, the type really had to become a dominant graphic element of its own. It had to look cool enough on its own that you would like it even if there wasn't actually a drawing there. So, then I sat down, pulled some fonts together, and, next step was designing the actual frame for the text and moving it from a word balloon into a graphic element with a Victorian era frame with all the little decorative swirls and trim around it. The next step was moving to a color comp, bringing those digital elements into Photoshop because they were all designed in Illustrator. Bring them into Photoshop and doing a quick, simple digital sketch of the whale and Ahab and the water so I could figure out the color and how I was going to treat it. And originally I started out with something that was more realistically painted, blue sky, dark blue water, fluffy clouds. But I decided that a monochromatic kind of beige tone, tan tone to it would give it more of that Victorian era illustration that I kind of established with the elements. And once I had that, I was off to the races in terms of drawing the actual piece. And the hardest part for me at that phase, actually drawing it, was just working out the scale, making it so that Ahab was tiny enough to imply the massiveness of the whale, but not so tiny that you can't see any details on him. And if I actually had the space, I probably would have made, in my mind, Moby Dick is probably twice as big as he is there in comparison to Ahab. But, knowing that the constraints of what space I was going to fit it into, I tried to make him feel as large as I could without making Ahab just a stick figure. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please like and share them. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital comic at newsletter.jeremy.net. That's newsletter.gerimi.net. Also, visit my main website, jeremy.net, where you can buy my comic books, art prints, and more. There's also links to my Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. That's it for now. Go be creative.